Riveting content. Empowering your life. Welcome to the Sphere. This episode is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. For more information on increasing your cash flow, becoming your own money manager, and to schedule your complimentary personal finance strategy, contact the Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463. Looking to advertise? Join the Sphere's vast demographic reach of thousands of people all over the world. Send an email today to advertise@thesphere.tv or call us at area code 832-772-7789. Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, Dr. Ashandra Batiste understands that one of the biggest obstacles is dental fear. The vision at Elite Dental Wellness is to ensure every patient is treated with respect, ultimate care, patience, and love. Call us today to make an appointment at area code 713-789-8680.
Welcome back to Injustice on the Sphere TV, where we discuss the laws of the land and how they affect you, the people. I'm your host, Brennan Dunn. You can reach me on Twitter at LegalMind. That's mine with a Y, because there's always a question to be asked and answered. Joined as always by the wonderful and brilliant Alicia Ford. How are you, Alicia?
I am well today, Brennan. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Injustice on the Sphere TV. My name is Alicia Ford, your host, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Allie on Sphere. So, Brennan.
Yes, Alicia.
What is going on in today's world?
Well, we're going to start over in the Northeast, over in Massachusetts.
Oh, really? Grew up there?
I'm a little bit irritated by a recent decision that was handed down. A woman, 17-year-old girl, back in 2014, at the time she was 17, Michelle Carter was sentenced recently for the suicide of her then 18-year-old boyfriend, Conrad Roy III. Prosecutors had pushed for Miss Carter to get up to 12 years in prison, while her defense attorney was pushing for probation. The judge ended up giving her 15 months in jail. Now, what's interesting about this case is that, and I said at the beginning, that she got jail time for another person's suicide.
Yeah.
In this particular case, I don't know if many of you are familiar with it, but there was a series of both verbally I guess the word is antagonistic.
Is that what you're going to call it?
I'm going to call it antagonistic messages, or
a series of verbal abuse.
Well, no, verbal encouragement, and also
verbal
text
abuse.
message encouragement for her then boyfriend to commit suicide. Now, mind you, at the time, when it originally started, when this young man, Mr. Roy, had originally started making overtures that he wanted to end his life,
Poor child.
Miss Carter was against it, and she tried to encourage him not to, and tried to.
So she just got fed up and said, "If you go do it, just jump in the truck."
He continued and said, "Well, there's no reason for this," and da 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 da. So she ended up flipping the switch and saying, "Look, I'm tired of hearing all this BS. If you're going to do it, just go ahead and do it." And from that point on, she kind of was like, look, you want to plan? I'm going to be your helper in this, because that's what a good and dutiful girlfriend does. She supports you in the things that you want to do. So
you can't even keep a straight face with that. So I should support any man that tells me he wants to kill himself.
She didn't support him at first. She told him, "No, don't do it. Don't do it." He had a dream, and he stuck to that dream. She said, "Okay, well, if that's really going to be what you want to do, then do it. Don't keep talking about it. So fast forward, he ends up doing it. She helped him plan out what he should do, how he should do it. I think towards the very end, he started second guessing himself, as he had done several other times, because I think he had actually tried to go through with it a couple times and backed out. So this last time that he tried, she was like, look, you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And so he ended up killing himself.
I don't even see why this was, girl. This is a shout out to why is this still your, why is like not 10 red flags waving? You could have just left him alone and you would have been scot free. Like, this is a mentally ill person that you should have been reporting to the authorities.
The huge thing about this, though, to me, is that she was found guilty, for encouraging this guy's suicide. And this sets a terrible precedent, in my opinion, because at this point you're saying for someone else's actions, simply by virtue of you encouraging them, that's enough for you to be guilty of something related to someone else and their own separate individual actions. And I think that, if I'm wondering, Alicia, if I want to, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I should go play this lottery. I don't know if I should play this lottery, Alicia. Maybe I should. I don't know. You say, don't play the lottery. If you don't know, don't play it. But I keep talking about it.
I'd never say that.
But I keep talking to you about it. Maybe I should. Then you say, you know what? Go ahead, play the lottery. Go by this station. Go at this time. I heard that they do a great job. Da 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 da.
Yes, I want half your winnings. Yes, I want half of your winnings.
I go buy my own stuff with my own money. You should be
following
entitled.
my directions. Absolutely.
You're being ridiculous at this point. And
if I told you which station to go to, what numbers to play, at what time to go to get it,
you didn't even tell me what numbers.
Well, actually, I was prophetic, and I should have went myself.
Right.
But in this case, I can't really see how you can fault her.
You can't.
For unless you make it some kind of law. Is it like a cyberbullying law? Because I don't understand how you can say, hey, you should have told him to stop. Well, first of all, she shouldn't have been encouraging anybody to, commit suicide to begin with. But then the judge is saying that because she tried to tell him, or because she encouraged him to get back into the car with carbon monoxide, and I guess because of prior text messages where she's just like, well, just kill yourself then, what is it, depraved heart or something?
No, because those all involve the actions of the individual doing something. There is no active involvement by her. If all it takes is a couple of words for me to make you go do something, you know how.
I could see it being depraved heart because your lack caused the death of somebody else. But
depraved heart means you physically are involved in it. If you shoot a gun into the air and it kills some people randomly,
but
that's where your depraved heart comes in.
If I also just spread some stuff into the,
but you're actively doing something.
I guess the judge is trying to say she's actively.
She's not.
So telling somebody to kill somebody is not an act.
No. That's not
that's not an action.
Telling you to kill yourself is not me making you kill yourself.
It could inspire, and I'm trying to wrap my brain around where the judge was going. Don't yell at me. What I'm saying is that I'm sorry, Mr. Carter.
So it sounds like you kind of agree with him.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay, because you're fighting so hard.
Well, first of all, even if I did agree with him, it would be okay.
It would.
And then secondly, I find it hard to hold her accountable for his death in this matter, because should she have called some
you have no duty to call.
She has no duty to call, but still, if she
had
a heart, she would have called. If this is your boyfriend, you would have called.
That to me is the ultimate litmus test. If I don't even have a legal duty to call to help you when you are sitting there suffering, why would you then impart on me the legal animus? Because I verbally said something to you. Like if I can watch you sit there and die and there is no legal duty for me to help you, but if I say you're dying, you should die a little bit faster. you might have put yourself in legal jeopardy at that point. It just makes no sense to me, and I think that this creates a snowball effect, and it's a real slippery slope that we go down with this particular train of thought. Hopefully, this is one of those things that can be overturned on appeal, because I just don't see this being an appropriate measure.
Yeah, she was involuntary manslaughter, so I was like, it had to be something. I was like, because it doesn't have to be like you did something. It was just I don't get to involuntary manslaughter. I don't get that hard.
At most, you get to bullying. At most.
I mean, so if we're going to go the murder route, at most, I get to recklessness. Like that's at best, but not involuntary. I mean,
well, involuntary manslaughter reckless endangerment is a part of involuntary manslaughter.
I just feel like there's got to be one lower than that.
How about nothing? That's the one lower. Nothing.
Oh, gosh.
So that's where we are with that. I think they got that wrong. Massachusetts, let's go ahead and talk about this and see if we can get this changed. Now we're going to hop over to the other coast and talk about California, where a family of a transgender child is bringing a discrimination case against a private school system at Heritage Oak Private School, citing that the school has not afforded this child certain protections. Namely, this is a trans girl by the name of Nicole Brar. She's the complaint filed by a pro bono organization, Public Counsel, which has its own advocacy website, alleges that the school made Nicole wear a boy's uniform, called her by the wrong name, and prohibited her from using the girls' restroom, and did nothing to prevent her from being bullied by other students, causing Nicole emotional distress. So, got a couple of issues with this too. First and foremost, I have a fundamental issue with transgender identity being cemented that young.
That ain't my business.
That's my first and foremost issue. Not to say that it's not possible that one can have a solidified gender identity at that point.
I mean, but at the same token, I'm just going to say that we also don't know what it's like to feel like we're not our gender and what age that would start at.
Oh, agreed. But my biggest problem is in today's microwave society where fads and trends happen overnight and are gone the next day, I fear that in this microwave society that in not every case someone who identifies in some shape, form, or fashion now is not going to have that same identification later. And whether that be gender, stylistically, you have goths that sit up there, you go through this goth stage, you're wearing all black, polish, nails, everything else, and then one day you're back to being a Susie Q homemaker, and then one day a little boy wants to play with dolls, the next day he's playing with Transformers, and then he's shooting guns. There's transformations that go on in a child's life, and this gender identity thing, because it's been so overpopulated in social media and in the media, this might be one of those situations where it's too early at the age of like 8 for you to cement yourself like that. So that's my first issue.
I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to counter one point to say that I don't know that maybe it's just getting more attention now because it's becoming a little bit more acceptable and parents aren't forcing their children because they are afforded certain protections or are being guaranteed certain protections in the law. Because I don't know, maybe this was happening 30, 40 years ago and we just don't know because they were forcing. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I have no idea how this works.
Right. And again, I'm not knocking the fact that you could have a cemented identity at that age. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that at that age, every child who identifies as something may not necessarily have that cemented psychologically.
So that's not going to be my problem because that's not the child I'm raising.
So we'll get back to the next sub issue in just a moment, but we got to make these coins happen. This portion of the show is sponsored by Houston Housewives of Finance. Did you know that only 4 states in the United States offer financial education? 33%, or more than 77 million Americans, don't pay their bills on time. 39% of Americans carry credit card debt from month to month, and 39% of adults say that they don't have enough savings. Don't become one of the statistics. Let Houston Housewives of Finance advise you on increasing your cash flow and becoming your your own money manager by scheduling your complimentary personal financial strategy. Contact Houston Housewives of Finance today at 1-844-700-4463 or email them at info@houstonhousewivesoffinance.com. Ask how you can participate in a complimentary financial literacy workshop near you. Houston Housewives of Finance is the new face of the new age of financial services. So the next portion of this is, so they cited a couple things. One, the school made, they didn't call her by the name that she wanted to be called, Nicole.
Was that her legal name?
And that's a question that I have, because unless you've changed that legal name, you can't. This goes back to the whole identity for now type thing, and I'm talking about it at that age. If you haven't cemented in every facet of this person's life what they want to identify as and what you want to adhere for them to identify as, then you can't pick and choose. If you're going to call her Nicole,
because I don't
then
understand
it needs to
how
say
they
legally
would
Nicole.
know that there's another name to call this
Well,
child.
the parents could say,
well, no. This is no, but my thing is, because for me, it's like, if you don't want the school, which is really not doing anything but calling you by the names that they have to submit to the state board for education and all of that about their rosters, by the name in which you submit and register your child under. I mean, because they wouldn't know that her name was anything other than Nicole if you didn't write that down on her documentation, which means that you didn't take the steps to change this child's name. So how are you going to fault the school for calling the child what she is legally named? I mean, I get it. You know, if the teacher wants to take it upon themselves to do whatever, that's fine. But you still didn't take guarantees to say, like, this is because they're gonna say, no, this is what she's registered as, this is what we call this child. So I mean, I can't see how you can fault the school for calling her what you wrote down.
I don't know. And they said that they made Nicole wear a boy's uniform. Again, I don't know what the parents are doing to solidify certain things. And the school has come out and said, look, we provided certain accommodations, we offered certain accommodations for this child, but the parents rejected those accommodations that the school had proposed. So they weren't specific in what accommodations that they proposed. But, and one other thing that really gets to me on this one is that they cite that they didn't prevent, or they did nothing to prevent the bullying that occurred, causing Nicole emotional distress. Here's one of those situations, especially given the environment. You're talking about children. I don't know what all you can do to prevent every form of bullying that a child is going to have when that child doesn't fit the norm and status quo that's presented.
Well, I think that, because for me, it's kind of like, you can't have, and I think this is the problem, you can't have 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the door with this stuff. You can't have, in these respects, I want you to be this, but in these, like, if you are sitting here saying that your child identifies as a female and is doing all that, and then you need to go ahead and change her name. You need to go ahead and start these hormones then. Like, do it all. Don't sit here and have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, then expect a society to kind of just go with your flow because that's what you're doing at this time. No. I mean, our children, she's confused. The children are confused. And then it's kind of like, she's probably sad, upset that she has to come to school as in a boy's uniform, but clearly looks and presents her or himself as a girl. And so that's probably where the bullying came from. Like, kids are cruel, especially when they don't understand something. So it's kind of like, if you're telling her, I just feel like you either go all the way with it or don't do it at all. And so for me, it's kind of like, take every legal step you have to protect this child under the law, so that when she is, and she probably was discriminated against in this case, that you have some legal basis to take to court and say, hey, look, we've done all of this to be protected by it, and this still happened.
Agreed. So we'll see. I mean, the transgender movement in America is relatively new. As far as it being in the media and public eye. So this is definitely ongoing, and we're going to talk about some more ongoing transgender issues in just a second. But I want to go ahead and say hello to the Facebook Live users out there. We appreciate everything that you do to support us.
Thanks
Make
for
sure
watching.
that you subscribe to the show on all the major platforms, including iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Android, and Stitcher. Review our show on iTunes with constructive feedback, and share this Facebook Live post and the entire show with your family and friends. And don't forget that we always need these coins moving, so donate to our mission to bring enriched and inspiring content each and every week. You can donate at www.thesphere.tv/donate. Remember, we are everywhere that you want us to be. Now, moving forward with this transgender issue, you know that recently the president issued a mandate for transgenders in the military to cease and desist their military operations and active roles. This has brought on a transgendered military personal lawsuit over the service ban. There's 5 transgendered members of the U.S. military, including Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans, are suing the president based on this ban, saying that it's unconstitutional. They are not afforded the same rights and protections as other Americans. And I got to say, I wholeheartedly agree. Quite frankly, I don't understand how you keep anybody who wants to serve and protect the very country that you are trying to run into the ground, Mr. President, how you tell them that they aren't allowed to serve and fight for you.
Look,
you won't do it.
But you did it. What did he have?
So how dare you tell these people that they're not allowed to do it?
Oh, I mean, they have every right to bring this lawsuit, because not only are they already registered members of the service that protect our life, they're protecting his fly off at the mouth life. And it's kind of like, it just does not make sense that I feel like this man is an idiot. I mean, I really don't have anything else to say about it. I mean, because when we think about it, the tweet surprised the military, who was not even in agreement with what he was tweeting. They're like, that just came out of nowhere. They never talked about it, said, hey, came to consensus. We agree that military should be banned. Because if that were happening, you best believe that if the military were going to try to phase out transgendered people in the military, they'd have started phasing them out first. And so by the time they came out with the ban, there would have been nobody transgendered in the military. So, I mean, it's just kind of like, again, President Trump putting his foot in his mouth and somebody else having to clean it up, but now it's costing us dollars.
I mean, it just makes no logical sense to me. And part of what they're citing for this ban is monetary concerns, saying that to have transgenders who are actively going through sex changes in the military is going to cost them billions of dollars to maintain that particular medical care.
It's costing us millions of dollars to send him to New Jersey every month to play golf.
But likewise, we spend billions upon billions of dollars for military advancement. We spend more money in military advancement than the next, I think, 7 military budgets across the world combined. So when you talk, we're not hurting in the military department. So to use the monetary facet of this,
which
as
is
an
such a
excuse,
small, insignificant part of it.
So I really think that this is really another instance of us not being comfortable with things that we either A, don't understand, or B, we just don't agree with. And it happens, it's happened time and time again. It happened with black people trying to fight for this country. It happened with women trying to fight for this country. And now it's happening for transgenders trying to fight for this country. This is just the newest form of prejudice and ignorance that rears its ugly head. There's nothing about the fact that a man who decides he wants to live his life as a woman has to do with the fact of whether that person can pick up a gun, shoot that gun, and protect my life. If you can pick up a gun and if you can run, then damn it, fight for me.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
If you're blind, but you can still hear out the enemy,
look,
fight for me.
If you could put that skill to use to where we are protected in this nation, thank you is all I have. Thank you.
If you have no legs, but you can still crawl your ass across the ground.
Wait, this is not how.
Fight
that's
for
not
me.
how you say it. If the person has no legs, You don't tell me if you could crawl your ass across. That's not right.
Why not?
Because it's uncouth.
Well,
but either way.
Couth never.
But I could tell. It's never been anything you've known about.
How you spell couth?
Couth.
All right,
but
now.
Either
I'll
way,
let you use it.
I just feel like y'all go ahead and sue this president. Actually, sue him for much more. I just sue him for monetary damages, personal infliction, emotional distress, because you don't know how you're going to be treated in the military or if there's going to be some kind of, I just don't understand. I don't understand. And
well, no one understands him but his woman, and I don't think she even understands him because she
even
doesn't even want to be his woman. But that's neither here nor there. We've got
anywhere.
Trump is getting sued left and right, y'all, and we're gonna go up to the Midwest and talk about what Trump is doing over there. Chicago and Chicago's mayor Rahm Emanuel is suing the Trump administration from enforcing. They're trying to prevent the Trump administration from enforcing new policies that withhold money from so-called sanctuary cities that deny U.S. immigration officials access to local jails. This was something that was put in place by the DOJ and Trump when he first came in here, saying, look, for these quote unquote sanctuary cities that protect immigrants and don't help the federal government identify them and keep them in holding whenever they've been identified, we are going to, if you're not going to play ball and help us catch these people in the easiest form fashionable, then we are going to withhold federal funding from you. And Chicago is one of many cities around the country that is saying that's BS. You can't tell us to do something that's not within our purview. You're having us do your job and are going to force penalties on us for not doing something that's relegated to the federal government.
First
to do.
of all, we can't so in essence, I mean, that is what the federal government it deals with all things dealing with immigration. The states are not allowed to take up matters that deal with immigration. They can't start. Texas can't just by the spur of the moment, because we are one of the closest borders to Mexico, say we're going to have this new immigration policy that deals with how people from other countries come into Texas through the Mexico border. So now they're making us say, hey, you know what? I don't want to do the federal government's job. If you are the one that deals solely with immigration and all matters dealing to immigrating or the leaving and the movement of bodies in and out of this country, then deal with it. Stop putting it on cities.
And quite honestly, when you think about it from a public policy perspective, you have to think about these mayors don't want to create police states within their cities. You create and harbor fear when you have citizens who, for all intents and purposes, that appear to be productive members of the society, regardless if they're illegal or not. But these are people that go to work every day. These are people that take care of their families, and there's an influx of capital from the economic perspective that they continue to put into their cities. So now when you tell them, anytime we see you out and about, we are going to enforce these laws and have you running away from us at any turn, then that does not create a healthy environment for a city. And I think that's another big issue that these cities are facing.
Well, and adding to the healthy environment, it also stops people from reporting crimes, whether you are, here where you have a legal status or a non-legal status in this country, and it also opens up the fact of people targeting populations that they know may tend to not have a legal status, because who are they going to call? They're not going to call the police because they're going to be afraid they're going to be, rounded up by ICE. So it's going to actually help any criminal element in the city act upon this certain subset of people. And then I want an illegal person with a non-legal status to call the police if they know somebody's getting raped. I want them to call if they know that something's happening. I want them to call if something's happened to them. And now they're going to be afraid to do that, because they're going to be afraid that if I call the police, now I won't be able to, I have to worry about, well, if I was just mugged, I not have to worry about if I'm going to get pulled into, an ice hold.
Right. And all it does is promote and promulgate, racial prejudice, and also this thing that we hate so much, which is racial profiling. You look like you might not belong in this country. Yes, 911. I've got a look-alike right next to me. So I need you to come check them out just in case they don't belong. You harass me, pat me down, might end up killing me because you know how minorities are treated by police officers in this country. We may or may not make it out alive. And guess what? Now we have harassment of potential American citizens just for the sake of appeasing prejudice in this country, and I just think it's a bad way to go. But I want to let you guys know that this portion of the show is sponsored by The Sphere. Are you starting your business and looking for a place to advertise? Do you have a need to reach out to thousands of people across the world to build your brand or sell your product? If so, get your product placement and advertising needs handled right here at The Sphere. We offer a wide variety of content delivery platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Plus, we have a vast demographic reach within the United States as well as modern countries across the globe. Our enriched content and inspiring dialogue, coupled with your strategic ad, is surely to hit the mark every time. Call us today at area code 832-772-7789 or send an email over to advertise@thesphere.tv. So we've got Trump over here just getting sued left and right, dealing with issues.
That ain't nothing new to him.
I mean, it's not
anything new to him.
He stays
He's used to this
off some bullshit. But we want to talk about Trump getting sued yet again. This is all about lawsuits today. I'm digging this because at least things are happening and people are fighting back. But the Trump situation, Trump administration, along with the Department of Justice, the DOJ, is switching sides in a Ohio voter purge lawsuit where Ohio is trying to fight to. It's a Republican-led state that's they have a policy that they're instituting, urging inactive voters to basically vote. If you don't vote for a certain amount of time, then they purge you from their voting system, from their registration system. During President Obama's Justice Department reign, they fought against this particular Ohio policy, citing that it was unconstitutional and it went against the logic of voter registration and equal protections. Now that we have President Trump in play, they've switched sides and are now promoting and supporting the Ohio purge of voter policy. And essentially what this does is say, look, if you haven't been voting for a certain amount of time, we are going to wipe you from the registration system, which is going to force you to have to go back and re-register to vote, which comes, we all know, with certain issues, especially depending on what state you're in. It might be hoops and hurdles just to get you back on that registration in time. And what happens if you didn't even realize that you were purged from that system and it's time to vote, and now you don't have enough time to go back in and register to vote? Your vote no longer counts. There shouldn't be a time limit on once you've registered as an American citizen, unless you move from that particular voting area. There should be no limits, time constraints, or any functionality that prohibits you from voting whatsoever. And this is another Republican-led venture to try to curb Democratic votes.
And you know what's going to happen is this is just the first, probably in the start of many laws where they're more than likely going to try to tighten requirements to register to vote and for voting. So it's kind of, when you're looking at it, I mean, what's a few names on your roll doing? It's not doing anything. They're ones and zeros in a database. That's all it is. And so really what it is that Ohio was a state that you know, Trump did okay in because he got, you know, the blue collar worker over there that really wasn't expected to get. And now he really wants to keep his base there. And that damn Jeff Sessions, if that man doesn't burn, and I don't know what he burns
in, about the Southern Gerber, baby.
I can't respect anything about that man. I cannot respect anything about him or anything that he stands for. And the fact that the Congress and the Senate love his dirty draws says way more. People need to watch their senators too, because they love that man. Why? Well, okay, so I'm going to come off my soapbox. I'm going to go back and say, this is just expected. So what should this tell you? What should a law like this tell you? That your vote matters, that you need to really register to vote. You need to make sure that you vote in the 2018 midterm election. It lets you know that they are actively trying to make it harder for you to exercise your right to vote. I mean, that's all you need. And it's important. We can't be apathetic about it. I mean, do we want to be in Venezuela where then the government just changes the entire law and makes other things happen? Like, no, we are in a democracy where we have the right to exercise our ability to cast a ballot for somebody that we choose to lead our country, and they keep trying to take that right away from you by saying, no, you haven't registered in this, you haven't voted in this song. It doesn't matter when was the last time I voted. It's my right regardless of when I do it.
Word.
And so it's ridiculous. And I just really wish people would wake up, especially minorities and people of color, Hispanic, Black especially, that you need to vote and understand there is an importance in your voting. I get tired of hearing people, my vote don't count. Look what your non-counting ass vote did. It got Trump in here. That's what it did. I mean, just
well,
sorry.
We're gonna hop over to just woosah.
I will.
It's okay. It's okay.
I get it.
California tends to be doing a little bit right now in regards to their Attorney General Xavier Becerra. Has released revised rules for police on their beats to collect details about race, gender, and other factors about everyone they stop to prevent racial profiling.
Oh.
So the police departments with over 1,000 officers will begin to collect data in 2018. Some of these agencies are concerned with these new rules, saying that they're going to be a burden on police officers in the field, saying that, look, while they have to input all this information while being police officers, while doing whatever else that they're doing. But guess what? That's the job. If you were doing such a good job of not profiling minorities, if you were doing such a good job of not killing people that don't look like the status quo of the benign person in America, if you were doing such a good job of not incarcerating every minority that you see just for the fact that they are minorities, statistically, this is all shown, then maybe we wouldn't have to institute these kind of rules, regulations, and procedures. And in this particular case, when you tell me that it's overly burdensome for you to put in data simply to show that you are doing what's right, that is a red flag and a signatory to me that you have signed on to do some shit that you are not capable of doing.
Well, even still, like, dude, let's just be real. All they're going to do is put a checkbox. Like, all they're going to do is put a drop down menu. I mean, like, it just, it's there. It's not a lot that's probably going to happen when they're inputting this stuff. Like, they have means to make this information gathering very easy. That will add, 10 more seconds to you inputting information you're already inputting?
Well, the problem is no one wants to have hard facts on what they do. Yeah. Once you start putting in statistics, it's hard to argue with statistics.
Yes.
It's hard to argue that facts are not facts when they've been proven to be so. So when you start to put in black and white your blackness versus my whiteness, that becomes an issue, and that's the problem that we have right now.
They just need to go ahead. Them coders, the database analysts just need to go and put the little drop down box. Are they a female? Are they a male? Are they black? Are they white? Whatever. Yeah. And keep moving.
And I it's hard for me to feel sorry for police officers right now. You have so many people backing you without those same type of people understanding and backing the people who have been hurt in America
by actions
certain
of the bad
actions
few
of the minority of police officers who are hurting the majority of minorities. And that's the problem that we have. It's the bad apples always hurt the many. When it comes to politics,
what is it? The bad apple spoils the bunch.
And we as minorities have dealt with this since we've been minorities in this country. Are few whenever we do anything wrong, that represents the totality of the Black American experience. But you don't want us to afford each and every police officer with that same type of totality when you have one bad police officer that does something wrong. Well, guess what? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And at this point, because you haven't backed up the right people, somebody else has to come in and do it for you and put in statistics to say this is the real problem. You can't. If
there weren't a problem, it wouldn't be necessary.
Agreed.
Like that's just all there is to it.
Agreed.
Sorry, that's all there is to it.
We have one more thing we want to talk about. And we're going to get into a little lesson today on juries and grand juries versus trial juries. But before we do that, just wanted to let you guys know that this portion of the show is sponsored by Elite Dental Wellness. At Elite Dental Wellness, our vision is to create a welcoming practice that will offer exceptional dental care and a lifetime of dental wellness. We are committed to the finest possible oral care and the overall health and well-being of our patients. Elite Dental Wellness is built upon a foundation of integrity, expertise, and service. Through our commitment to modern dentistry, continuing education, and friendly atmosphere, we strive to make our patients feel that they are comfortable and a part of a family. Dentistry can be scary, daunting, and uncomfortable. Dr. Baptiste and her team work tirelessly to ensure your comfort. Make your appointment today with Dr. Sean Baptiste at Elite Dental Wellness at 713-789-8680. So today we're going to give you a little bit of a lesson on the criminal justice system and how it affects you and what it means when somebody says you've been indicted. There are two types of juries in our criminal justice system. One is the grand jury. The other is what's formerly called the petty jury, also known as the trial jury. The grand jury, we're going to talk about that first. The grand jury is the group of men and women that are selected in order to determine probable cause in a case and to determine if an indictment is brought upon a person. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, you talk about probable cause. Probable cause means it's a very low standard to decide, essentially, is there enough evidence that maybe you did it? That's the most layman terms way I can put that. There's a good chance that you might have done what's being alleged against you. And if you followed all the rules as a police officer or law enforcement personnel, then probable cause exists if we find that once we know that all the rules have been followed, there's at least some chance that you might have done whatever has been alleged to being done. Probable cause exists. Grand jury is supposed to look at all the information that's presented to them to decide if probable cause exists. We say, well, how do you get to these grand juries? In some states, they're appointed. In Texas, up until I think 2015, they were actually appointed by an administrative process. However, they changed that rule to be the same way you would get a regular a petty jury member, in as much as if you are a registered voter, then you are randomly selected out of the voter registration pool, which is, again, another reason, Alicia, why voting and registration of voters is important, because you can't provide the type of protection for your people that is necessary unless you are registered to vote. We can't find you to help us if you are not to be found on paper. So the grand jury consists of 12 jury members that are chosen to serve for usually about a 3-month period, 90-day period, where they listen to all of the cases that are brought to them by prosecutors, the DA's office in your particular county. Now, what's interesting about this is that in every grand jury scenario, the prosecutors are the people that bring all the evidence that they want to show to a grand jury. Defense attorneys are not normally allowed in there. The only way a defense attorney is allowed in, and the only way a defendant is allowed into a grand jury proceeding, is if the grand jury makes a formal request and saying, we would like to hear from this person, which doesn't usually happen. So essentially, all information given to a grand jury has been colored and shaded by the state in whatever form they want to give to make their case and say, look, we're going to give you all the stuff that we want you to make a determination on to decide if there's probable cause. Now, what a defense attorney can do in this grand jury proceeding is put forth their own packet of information to submit to the grand jury. The grand jury has the ability to either review that packet or not look at it. It's up to them. Grand juries also have subpoena power. On the federal side, you see that a lot of times where grand juries are convened to subpoena information so they can be an investigative leg to determine what they're going to do in situations. So you get these 12 people. They make a determination. It has to be by a supermajority. Usually it's 3/4 of the 12 have to decide to either true bill or no bill for an indictment. That means usually 9 people out of 12 have to decide, yes, we think there's probable cause. No, we don't think there's probable cause. If we do believe there's probable cause to indict, then you come back with a true bill. If there's not, then you get a no bill. And that ladies and gentlemen, is how you get to the indictment process. So when people say that they've been indicted, that means nothing when it comes time for trial. People think all the time that indictment is evidence of guilt. And I ask jury members, potential juries at the trial level all the time, hey, my client's just been indicted for this particular case. Do you think that that indictment should count as evidence of guilt? I'll have people raise their hands all the time, and it's wrong, because that indictment only lets you know that you have been formally charged for a crime in which that there is probable cause to believe that you may have done it. And everything that led up to that indictment, you had no way of protecting yourself or defending yourself up until that very point. This is the first time, once a jury is being selected for trial, this is the first time a defendant actually gets the chance to defend themselves against the allegations. So it's important. We talk about these grand juries that are no-billing police officers all the time. They're no-billing people that we think in our communities should have been indicted for in the first place. But guess what? If you're not registered to vote, if you're not actively going to jury service, there is no way to get people that look like us, that are supposed to be representative of the total portion of America, because you're supposed to be judged by a jury of your peers. But if your peers don't look like you, then you're not being judged by your peers.
If your peers don't show up.
I get so irritated all the time when people say, I skip jury service. You are literally the last line of defense for a juror. I'm going to talk about the petty jury in just a second, but Alicia, is there anything else you want to add on that?
Absolutely not. I'm ready to talk about the petty jury.
All right. So the trial jury is the second part of this, where essentially this is the portion where you've been indicted. It's time you plea negotiations don't work. The state is offering you something that you think is BS, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to take my chances at trial. So what do? They march in a group of people, usually anywhere, if it's a felony level, usually going to have anywhere from like 40 to 60 to up to 80 people that are brought in for potential jurors. Out of that, and what people don't really know is that selecting a jury is more of a deselection process than it is a selection process. When you talk about selecting a jury, the more you say, the less likely it is for you to get picked on a jury, because what they're doing is knocking people out for either one of two things. They're either knocking you out for cause, or they're knocking you out in what's called a peremptory challenge, which is basically, we don't like you because of something you said. Now, for cause challenge means that there's a constitutional reason why you are not being chosen. Either you can't speak English, you have said during questioning during the jury selection process that you can't be fair. You don't believe in the law. Any one of these things, those are constitutional issues, and you, as a trial attorney, you have an unlimited number of strikes that you can cross people out on based on constitutional challenges. Then you've got this thing called peremptory strikes, which simply means that if a potential juror said something that you don't like, or you don't think that they're going to be good for your case, you can knock those people out. Every state is different. I know in Texas, for a felony case, you get up to 10 strikes for peremptory strikes because you didn't like what somebody said. The other caveat to that is you cannot strike somebody based on their race, religion, or gender. That would have a constitutional backlash against you. So I can't say as a trial attorney, you know what, I don't want any women on this case, so just because she's a woman, I'm going to knock her out. That would bring up appellate issues. All that to say that in the trial process, it's the more you talk, the more you give trial attorneys the idea of how fair or not fair you're going to be in the process. And I've seen time and time again, people try to, get out of jury selection by saying something, well, only God can judge me. I even had one juror tell me, as I was asking questions, well, I was trying to figure out which one of y'all did it. Meaning, was it me or the defendant? Because he couldn't tell who was the attorney and who was the defendant. He wanted to know right then and there which one of us did it. So he went in there with the presupposition that somebody had committed a crime. And a lot of people do that. By virtue of you being in a courtroom, that shows them some type of evidence of guilt, which is completely erroneous. So Hopefully that's been a good lesson to you guys on the jury.
It's a wonderful lesson.
The jury process. I know it can be a little bit boring for Alicia.
No, not
but
at all.
Hopefully there's been some information that's been given out to you guys. If you have questions on that, we wanted to make sure every now and then that we actually give you guys some legal classes on how the system works for and against you. And this is one of those situations.
Brennan, thank you for being the brilliant mind that you are.
Oh, shucks. You make me.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
That's
all I
got.
That's all I got. That's all I got.
Well, guess what? That's all we have for this show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed your time on Injustice on the Sphere TV. I'm your host, Brennan Dunn. You can reach me on Twitter at LegalMind. Mind with a Y, because there's always a question to be asked and answered. Alicia?
And you can reach me on Twitter and Instagram at AllionSphere. And I'm your host, Alicia Ford. We want to thank you for tuning in again, and we will see you next week.
Indeed. Have a great day.
Have a great one.